everyone, it's Sylvie here and you're watching Wild Encounters with the BC Wildlife Park. For the last 2 episodes in our series, we are going to do a 2-part special all about falconry. So falconry is an ancient art and a method of hunting that involves teamwork between a human and a bird. And here at the BC Wildlife Park and in zoos all around the world, falconry has been modified to become an educational tool that allows guests to meet amazing birds of prey up close and learn all about their roles in the environment as well. So in this episode, you'll meet falconer Jamie, and he will tell you all about what falconry is, what kinds of birds are used in falconry, what his job specifically is here at the BC Wildlife Park, and you'll even get to see some behind-the-scenes footage of Jamie training the raptors for our educational demonstrations. So I hope you enjoy.
Hello, my name's Jamie. I'm the falconer here at the BC Wildlife Park, and this is Needham that I've brought along with me. Now, falconry is actually a very ancient sport. It originated thousands of years ago. Some believe 2,000 to 4,000 years BC. There's even experts that say there's paintings on caves that are depicting man and bird working together. It's quite an interesting past. Now, falconry, true falconry, involves flying a raptor to hunt other animals. Now, when it originated, that's what they believe it was all for, is hunting generally rabbits, hares, and some other birds. But it kind of turned into a sport and more of a status symbol. Now, way back in the day, it was the kings and the emperors would have the best of the birds, and then the common people would have the worst ones. So now this guy wouldn't be used in falconry back in the day. If you're trying to hunt food to eat, he's not going to hunt anything that you're looking for. The eagles are the most sought after. They're larger. So if you're an emperor back in the day, you'd have the eagle, the king might have the gerfalcon, and as it goes down the line, the birds will get smaller and less effective at hunting. Now, as I said, these guys aren't something you're going to see for falconry. Your peregrine falcons are much more popular. Red-tailed hawks, especially in North America, are one of the biggest ones that you'll find, that and Harris hawks that are used for hunting.
Falconry is thought to have existed for over 4,000 years. It's hard to trace its origins in the archaeological record because it's so old that it predates literacy. Our best guess is that it began in the Middle East before spreading across the globe. Though it had simple beginnings as a method of hunting and later as a sport or even a symbol of class and status, falconry has actually contributed to life as we know it today in some pretty profound and unexpected ways. So much so that in 2010, falconry was added to the UNESCO list of intangible cultural heritages of humanity to ensure that the traditional skills, knowledge, and art of falconry are preserved and protected for many generations to come. So how has falconry become part of our everyday lives? Historical records suggest that some wars have been avoided by exchanging diplomatic gifts of falcons across borders. Falconers also gave the world its very first scientific book on nature, The Art of Hunting with Birds by King Frederick II. It's believed that William Shakespeare was an amateur falconer and would weave falconry metaphors into the language of his works, and many of them are still part of our language today. For example, the expressions under your thumb and wrapped around your little finger come from the act of hanging onto a bird's jesses or leather anklets to prevent the bird from flying away. If the bird does try to fly and is quickly pulled back, that's called baiting. When a bird baits, it gets a little out of breath and a little anxious to be released by the falconer, which is where the phrase waiting with bated breath comes from. Another common expression we use is fed up, which in falconry is used to describe a raptor who has gobbled up its fill of food. Even the word gentleman has its origins in falconry, originally meaning a man who could work with a female peregrine falcon, known as a falcon gentle. Falconry is truly one of the best educational tools we have in zoos because the lessons we can learn from it are not just about the birds, they're also about ourselves.
The definition of raptor literally comes from Latin in seizing and grabbing onto prey and carrying it off. So if you're a raptor, you have very powerful feet, long sharp talons, you have a nice hook-shaped beak for tearing into food, and generally you have incredibly good vision as well. So this, everybody, is Needham, who is a burrowing owl, one of the 5 groups of raptors out there in the wild. When we're discussing raptors, most people think of eagles first, and then you've got hawks, falcons, owls, and then the one that's not quite as popular, the vulture. The vultures are a slight different exception, but they still have a very powerful hook-shaped beak designed for tearing into flesh and eating carrion and different types of meat.
The so-called true raptors are eagles, owls, hawks, and falcons, but there are arguably several other categories that don't quite fit within the main four. For example, buzzards are sometimes grouped in with hawks, but can be considered their own category as well. Hawks such as the red-tailed hawk in the genus BUTEO can be considered buzzards, while hawks in the accipiter genus are considered the true hawks. Harriers are long and lean hawk-like birds that glide low to the ground to hunt small vertebrates. Kites are long-winged raptors that soar high in the sky and feed mostly on insects and carrion. SERIEMAS are long-legged birds from South America that are closely related to the extinct terror bird. Secretary-birds are similar to SERIEMAS but occupy a category of their own. They use their long, powerful legs to hunt venomous snakes by stomping on them. Ospreys are also a standalone species with their own category. They're a large raptor found all over the world that is adapted for hunting fish underwater. Caracaras are a distinct subgroup of falcons with thick beaks and broad wings, unlike most falcons. They live a scavenger's lifestyle, which falsely suggests a closer relation to vultures than to falcons. Vultures are scavengers who are adapted to feed on carrion, or dead and decaying meat. Their featherless heads allow them to dig around in animal carcasses without getting too dirty. It's debated whether or not vultures really are raptors because they have chicken-like feet that lack the strength of typical raptor feet. However you'd like to categorize them, there is no denying that all of these raptors are magnificent creatures adapted for hunting and surviving like no others.
Now, here at the BC Wildlife Park, we're not doing true falconry. We're basically here to educate people about these animals and the environment and conservation. So we're not taking our animals out and hunting, but we do similar things. I take all my birds out onto a stage and I free fly them for rewards. So when they're out there flying and getting little pieces of food, that's their way of hunting, and they're quite content doing so. What I do at the park, they're always positive reinforced. There's never any negative impact on my birds when I'm flying them. If they're early stages of training and I'm worried and concerned about them possibly flying off, we'll use a device called a crayons, which is quite simply a long string on a stick. It's like flying a kite, but this kite is a live bird instead. That allows the bird, if it tries to fly off, I can slowly bring it down to the ground without injuring the bird, and we can keep on training without any detriment. Now, once they're fully established, then I remove the crayons and we do free flight demos, which I do with a vulture, a red-tailed hawk, we have a barn owl, peregrine falcon, and I believe a couple others that we bring out once in a while as well. Now, in order to have them actually attentive and looking at me and wanting food and not flying off, most people wonder how do they do that. They're not like training a dog. Dog can be trained through affection. A bird doesn't love you, they want the food. So what I have to do, it's a fine, almost science, is getting the bird, and I weigh them every single day to figure out how much they weigh. And then I keep them in a certain weight bracket so that they're nice and hungry when I take them out, but they're fully content after they've been flown. That's why it's a fine, small little bracket that you want to find, especially for a bird of this size. The bigger birds are a little bit easier, but Needham weighs 165 grams and flies perfectly in about 155 to 170 grams. So a small 15-gram bracket, which is quite precise. Now, we don't starve the birds here at the park either. I get that quite often. That's a question. You starve them so they come back. If the bird's starving, they're not healthy, and an unhealthy bird doesn't have the energy to fly and do what we want them to. Now, we don't ask them to do anything unusual. We only show off natural behaviors, the way they fly around, and then try to distinguish between the different raptors and the different features and characteristics that they have.
Here Jamie's getting the first bird ready to fly. He's hooking her up to her crayons because she's still learning her flight routine. Taking the stage is Rogue, the red-tailed hawk. It's very impressive that Rogue is able to perform flight demonstrations because she's different from the rest of the falconry birds. The other birds were captive bred and raised in human care for education, but Rogue was born in the wild and came to us through our rehab center. She was struck by a car and came to us missing an eye and a talon. So her progress here is remarkable. You can see here Rogue is flying from perch to perch chasing food rewards. This stimulates her natural instinct to hunt. Hawks don't really fly for fun. They only fly for food, so treat rewards are essentially the only way to get Rogue to spread her wings and take flight as a hawk in the wild wood. Sometimes Rogue is still a little reluctant, but of course she's never punished, only rewarded if she does decide to fly. It's always ultimately her choice. She's still learning, but making great progress. Not bad for a one-eyed rescue hawk. Next up is one of our owls. It's Tito, the barn owl. Tito still flies off course sometimes, so he's training with the crayons as well. Oops, there he goes. Let's try that again. Tito is trained to fly to the sound of a buzzer. He usually flies to the buzzer without much hesitation, but he was nervous of me standing behind Jamie with the camera. He isn't forced to do anything he's uncomfortable with, so Jamie just moves closer to let him take shorter flights until he gets used to me being there. I was kind of up in his face, so it's understandable that he wouldn't want to fly to me. After some time, he realized my camera and I weren't threatening, and he decided the benefit of his food rewards outweighed the risks of flying toward an unfamiliar object in person. Good work, Tito. Here comes an impressive raptor, one of the biggest and heaviest on the roster. This bird has had more practice than the others this year, so he'll be flying without a crayons. Let's see who it is. It's Gontran, the turkey vulture. Nice wingspan. Gontran is practicing flying out over the audience and back again for rewards. Animal caretaker Amy is assisting Jamie by standing beside a perch above the bleachers, placing a food reward on top and calling to Gontran to fly to her. Turkey vultures have an exceptional sense of smell, so Gontran can always find his food. Oh no, and sometimes he finds human food. Uh-oh, watch out! Like I say, Gontran is practicing. He sometimes has a hard time resisting his natural instinct to scavenge for the audience's food and drinks. This is something he'll need to be trained out of before he performs for a real audience. Oops, looks like Amy's all out of rewards. Now it's up to Gontran to decide when to come back. Looks like he's enjoying some environmental enrichment. Here he comes. Gontran is great at this part. He demonstrates how turkey vultures like to pick meat off bones, as they are scavengers who survive on already dead animals. And sometimes things that can be picked out of the trash. Bye, Gontran. A solid effort from this turkey vulture. Now for the last bird to take the stage. It's Echo, the ferruginous hawk. A very powerful raptor. This bird is certainly not for amateur falconers. She is the largest species of hawk in North America. Luckily, Jamie knows how to handle her with care. She's a little out of practice, so she's just going to do some short hops on and off of her perch for rewards. Listen how she vocalizes while hopping to her rewards. She is taking her simulated hunting very seriously, making whistling sounds as she swoops in for the kill. She's definitely one of the most vocal birds in our falconry department. Looks like someone's hungry today. Great enthusiasm, Echo. Not all of the birds are training for free flight demos right now, but it's important that they still interact with the public so they're comfortable around people. This is Suki, the peregrine falcon, and she's doing a public animal encounter with Jamie. We know she's getting comfortable when she starts eating her snack, so we'll consider this a successful training session. Even small little Ninam is practicing some new skills. Here in our education department, we have Ninam accompany us for many education programs. Ninam is learning to fly in the classroom and hopes that we can have her perform many flight demonstrations to make our programs even more exciting. And she's doing a great job so far. So that's all in a day's work for a falconer.
All right, thanks for watching, everybody. This has been a Wild Encounters with the BC Wildlife Park here in Kamloops, British Columbia. If you'd like to learn more about raptors or the BC Wildlife Park in general, follow us on our social media platforms like Instagram and Facebook. Continue watching these videos on the network you may be on now, or even check us out on YouTube and our own website, bcwildlifepark.org. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Join us next time for part 2 of the Falconry special, where Jamie will personally introduce you to the amazing raptors you saw in the training footage today, and he'll tell you a little bit more about each of their species and how they are uniquely adapted for survival in the wild. See you next time. Bye for now.